SITREP World Briefing for June 30th, 2026. Rescue teams in La Guaira, Venezuela, continued combing through collapsed buildings on Monday after the earthquake that devastated the port city and killed at least 1,700 people. Crews used dogs, drones, and sound detection equipment to search for signs of life in the rubble, including at a collapsed building that became a focal point of the operation. Aid deliveries also resumed through La Guaira's port after repairs, restoring a critical entry point for relief into Venezuela's main Caribbean gateway near Caracas. U.S. Southern Command said the port had reopened and that the USS Fort Lauderdale was involved in moving humanitarian assistance for earthquake victims. La Guaira handles cargo for the capital region, and its recovery can speed the arrival of food, medical supplies, and heavy equipment needed for rescue and shelter operations. The twin effort to search for survivors and reopen logistics routes highlights La Guaira's role beyond the disaster zone itself. The city is Venezuela's principal port on the central coast, and damage there can disrupt access to Caracas and surrounding communities. In large urban earthquakes, rescue teams typically race to locate people trapped in voids inside pancaked structures during the first several days, while governments and foreign militaries shift quickly to sustaining water, power, transport, and medical support for displaced residents. Monaco authorities were investigating what they described as a deliberate explosion after a blast at a residential building wounded a Ukrainian oligarch and members of his family. Officials said a manhunt was underway after the attack, which struck late on Monday in the wealthy Mediterranean principality. The case drew immediate scrutiny because the victims included a wealthy Ukrainian businessman and relatives, raising questions about motive and target selection. Monaco's government and investigators moved to treat the blast as a serious security breach, and the search for the perpetrator became the central priority on Tuesday. For Monaco, even a single targeted attack carries significance because the city-state's economy depends on an image of safety for wealthy residents, foreign investors, and international visitors. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, security services across Europe have paid closer attention to threats facing prominent Ukrainians, exiles, and business figures. That backdrop will shape the investigation as prosecutors and police try to establish who planted the device and why this family was chosen. U.S. and Iranian delegations convened in Doha on Tuesday for technical discussions, but the two governments gave sharply different accounts of what the meeting represented. President Donald Trump said Iran had requested a meeting in the Qatari capital, while Tehran insisted its delegation was traveling to discuss implementation of a memorandum of understanding and that no direct negotiations with the United States were scheduled. By Tuesday, Iranian officials were still stressing that there would be no bilateral session with Washington, and U.S. officials likewise stopped short of confirming a direct encounter, even though both delegations were present in Doha, Qatar. France 24 reported that Washington had sent envoys, including Steve Witkoff, while Iranian statements framed the visit as a technical mission rather than a political breakthrough. The Doha contacts come at a particularly sensitive moment for both governments, with the wider agenda reportedly touching issues linked to Hormuz, Lebanon, and the broader regional confrontation that has repeatedly derailed U.S.-Iran diplomacy. Qatar's role as host is significant because it has long positioned itself as a mediator able to speak to Washington and Tehran at the same time. Even without a confirmed face-to-face meeting, Tuesday's technical talks showed that communication channels remain open and that both sides still see value in using Doha to test whether limited, issue-based arrangements are possible. Sources and the full written briefing are available at sitrepbrief.com.